Good afternoon, Colonel Country, and welcome to another episode of Colonel's Corner. On today's episode, we'll be previewing the Wilkes University women's basketball team's 2021-22 season. Our guest today is head coach Tara Macciocco. Coach, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Adam.
Now, Coach, let's talk about the 2021-22 season we have coming up very shortly. Can you tell us what your expectations are as you head onto the court for your first full season in almost 2 years?
I think expectations are high, especially after coming off of a couple wins at the end of the shortened season that we had last year. I think we're trying to carry that momentum forward, and they've been very eager since the end of last season to get back into the swing of things and hopefully have a full normal type season, but a full schedule and get fans back in the gym and have their families be able to come in and watch them play. So I think everybody's really excited to get going this week.
Let's talk about the players you have coming back. It's hard to gauge the first years from last year, now sophomores, as they only had about 8-9 game schedule. But as far as the juniors and seniors that have been around for a full college season, can you talk about your expectations for those players and just give us kind of a background on what we can look forward to with them?
Yeah, I mean, we're experienced, but we're not, I guess. We have a couple juniors and seniors back, but then we also have a couple newcomer juniors that haven't been with us, but have played in our league. So I understand kind of what the league is about. So I think we're going to rely heavily on some leadership from Kendra Smith, who is a traditional senior, and Brenna Babcock, who is, I guess, a sophomore/junior. She had transferred in halfway through the year. But I think those two young ladies are going to bring some leadership into the mix, along with Caitlin Kinsel, who is a junior who's also been stepping up really big the last couple of days in practice, especially becoming a much more vocal leader. So I think we have a really good mix of experience with that upperclassmen, and then those sophomores that were first years last year during the COVID year really did get a lot of really good experience on the court playing wise, and then also with the fact that we were able to kind of continue our workouts up through the end of last year. So they got a lot of time out on the floor with us and kind of understand that our expectations, what the program's expectations are. So I think we have a really good mix of all of that. And then we have 7 newcomers that have come into the program. So it'll be an interesting dynamic how that all kind of comes together as the year goes on.
So now you already mentioned the newcomers. Can you kind of talk to us about the players that you have coming in this year for their first season?
Kind of a mix from all over the place. We have couple local players, one that transferred in from Delaware Valley, but is from Honesdale. So a junior, Alexa Jones. Freshmen are a mix of, we have two that also play women's soccer. We have a local player and Bella McKeefrey from Riverside High School. And then just a couple other young players that I think are really going to, as the year goes on and they start to understand the expectations and start to understand what our program is about, start to kind of come into the mix late in the game. That their athleticism is unbelievable. It's just a matter of kind of learning a new system and being able to kind of figure out how they fit into that system and what their roles are.
Now let's talk about the MAC Freedom. Every year we talk about how the conference seems to get tougher and tougher, but in the last 2 years, we can honestly say it's become one of the tougher conferences in the nation with the additions of teams that have come in. Can you talk to us about your expectations throughout the MAC Freedom schedule this year?
I mean, everybody every year is chasing DeSales. That's a given. I think they're preseason top 10 in the country, kind of chasing after them. But also Stevens is a really, really tough draw. And then now bringing Lycoming and Arcadia onto our side. We didn't play them last year with their first year on our side, but they're always very, very physical team coming into the Freedom side of the league. So I think it's a battle every single night. You can't take any nights off. You can't have any sort of lulls in a 40-minute game. You've got to play the full 40 minutes every time we step out there to be competitive in this league. But I think everybody's kind of chasing after those top 2 and trying to get themselves into that 5-team playoff.
Now, can you talk to us about this year's schedule? What are some of the games that we can look forward to, and what are some of the contests that you've highlighted?
I think the Cross County Challenge is always a nice weekend that we get to. This year we'll be at the University of Scranton and kind of play those 2 teams from Lackawanna County and Scranton and Marywood. It's always a good draw too, fan wise. our game with Kings, we do a play for K pink game every year. And I think that game is always circled towards the end of the season, because we have a clinic the night before and we get a lot of the local kids involved in that. I think it's a nice event that we do every year with Kings. So I think those are probably a couple. Misericordia is always a nice rivalry. We got them last year one time, and they got us back the next two that we played them. But I think that's always one that's circled on our calendar as well.
Wilkes University women's basketball kicks off the 2021-22 season this Thursday when they welcome Penn State Worthington Scranton to the Mart Center. Tip-off scheduled for 7 p.m. Coach, thanks for joining us. Good luck this year.
Thank you very much, Adam.